I'm State Representative Matt Pierce for District 61, which is most of the city of Bloomington, and I'm here to talk about the potential special session to redistrict, to rig the seats for the Republicans in the midterm elections. Normally, the congressional and legislative maps are only redrawn in the year after the decennial census. So every 10 years, under the U.S. Constitution, we have an official census, and we count all the people and where they live. And then members of Congress are apportioned or allotted to each state based on the population. And then the legislature redraws the maps to deal with population shifts and whether or not they've gained or lost any members of Congress. And that is supposed to be done every 10 years after the census. And every 10 years after the census. Well, special sessions are usually only called under dire circumstances where something just absolutely needs to get done right now. Usually it's maybe fiscal related things, if there's a problem with the budget, something that they feel can't wait until the next regular session. And it's up to the governor to decide that. The only person in Indiana who can call a special session is the governor. The maximum that a special session can last is 30 days. Well, it's been not a normal process. That's the important thing to know. What's happening now is not normal. So we start with the President of the United States deciding that his party is going to lose the control of Congress in the upcoming midterm elections. So he starts sending his vice president around to states across America controlled by Republicans, telling them they need to redraw their maps now to rig the elections. They need to figure out a way to make more Republican seats. And so you suddenly have Governor Braun and the leaders of the General Assembly saying, maybe we'll have to do this. And it's hard to know what's happening. So apparently those Republicans are called to Washington, D.C., and my understanding is President Trump had a one-on-one meeting with Speaker Huston and President Pro Tem Bray, the leaders of the House and the Senate, trying to convince them that they need to have a special session and they need to rig up these maps to squeeze out more seats for Republicans in 2026. Well, there's a number of different ways a special session could play out. So the normal process the Constitution lays out is that you have to have bills read on 3 separate days. So they have to be introduced on one day, then you have to wait for another day to pass the bill out of committee and then have it considered on second reading where anyone could propose amendments to the bill. And then you have to have a third day in which you have what's called the third reading vote, and that's final passage from the particular house considering the bill. That's the normal process. So if you went through the normal process, you'd probably have the bill in the first house, wherever it starts, House or Senate, for 3 or 4 days, and then you would have to repeat the process in the second house, and it'd be another 3 or 4 days. And if there were changes made in the bill by the second house, then you might have to have a conference committee, and that could add another couple days on there. So you've got maybe a week to 10 days of activity to pass a bill. But our state constitution says that with 2/3 vote, you can suspend the 3 separate reading day requirement and go ahead and vote a bill through in one day. Because the Republicans have a supermajority, they have 2/3 of the vote. So if every Republican member, almost every Republican member of the House and the Senate agree that they should just suspend the rules and pass the bill through in one day, they could do that all by themselves. They wouldn't need any help from the Democrats to get that done. I don't think that the people who wrote the Constitution way back in the 1850s thought that you would have these huge supermajorities where one party is completely dominant. Because they have the supermajority, they're able to do things all on their own that normally wouldn't happen. They have absolute power. In the past, if you were going to suspend the constitutional requirements with a 2/3 vote, you would have to get some votes from the minority party, and therefore that would ensure that anything that's fast-tracked is a bipartisan bill that both sides agree upon and believe needs to be done in a hurry. But because of the supermajority, the Republicans have this absolute power that allows them to essentially jam through in one day a new set of congressional maps. I think there's polling that shows that they don't want to do it, but I just think from talking to people, it's clear they want to do it. And quite honestly, I think most Republicans know this is not fair. It's not fair play. It's not normal. And I think only the most partisan Republicans are in favor of doing this. I think that most people believe in rules and fair competition, and that's what they want their politicians do. They want to go out and earn their vote. They want to have districts handed to one party or the other. They want those parties that are competing for those seats to prove they're the best party to run Washington. Well, I think they should work really hard to convince Governor Braun that he shouldn't call a special session. The important thing to remember is Governor Braun, on his own, one single person, can defend democracy. He can say, we are not going to cheat. We are going to observe the fair play of the political system, and we're going to live with the maps that, by the way, Republicans gerrymandered after the last census. So it's kind of crazy. They think they have to come back and gerrymander even more. So I think that if the governor can be convinced that the people of Indiana want fair play, they don't want our democracy undermined, perhaps he will just stand up to Donald Trump and say, okay, we're not going to do this, no special session. Thanks for listening, and if you find this helpful to learn about what's going on in the background and how the legislature works, please follow us on the Indiana House Democratic Caucus social media.